this is Matt once again. Welcome back to the video. And first off, I know it's pretty dark, but it actually kind of fits in this because it's a pretty dark comedy. But this is a paid request from Eelco. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, reviews, re-reviews, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now, this is called The Art of Self-Defense, which I don't think I had heard of this film. Came out around 2019 and stars Jesse Eisenberg. Now, I don't know if I would say I'm a fan of Jesse Eisenberg, but I will admit I've liked some of his stuff, whether it be in Zombieland, which I liked, and what was the film? American Ultra, I actually didn't mind. And this one I didn't mind either. Now, he stars as this guy who's very soft spoken, and he pretty much works at this meh job, has his little dog as his companion, and one day he goes out to get dog food and he gets beaten up very badly. And after that, he feels a bit weak. He hates feeling so weak. He even decides to buy a gun. But then he comes across this dojo, and Alessandro Nivola is the sensei. I recognize this guy. He was Sam Neill's assistant and buddy in Jurassic Park 3. He was also Castor Troy's brother with the glasses and Face Off. I believe that was him. He plays the sensei. He's a guy that, seems like a cool guy, but you tell this is a way of doing the toxic masculinity thing actually well and clever. And this is before he was doing it every 5 minutes. Because with how humorous his interactions are and what he says, and just like kind of weird offbeat way this film takes its story, it actually made it work instead of cringe inducing. Because in the dojo, he starts enjoying it, he starts learning the ropes, learning what belts are, the color of belts, white, yellow, green, purple, blue, black, toss of stripes, as well as belts. The stripes, if you get a red one, that means you've made someone bleed. And if you get a black one, that means you're part of the knight training regiment. And the sensei is saying lines like, I'm going to make you kick with your fists and punch with your feet. And you see Jesse Eisenberg really getting into it, like finding a bit of his masculinity. Think of it as a guider. He's over here. He finds his masculinity, but then instead of a balance, he goes all the way to the other side. And I like the way it was directed in these scenes where there's like push-in slow-mo of him doing his training. And at one point, he even's able to get a kick on the other guy, and the other guy gets his tooth out, and they're both smiling. So there's sort of this machismo ability with each other. And some of the dialogue, like when the guy's trying to teach him how to kick. Oh, actually, he's ready to get hit. He's like, don't think about us getting hit. Think of it as striking my foot with your body. And he's so determined, he even gets a yellow belt. And he just becomes more and more obsessed with this. Like, he buys groceries, and they're all yellow items because of the yellow belt. He wants to wear an actual belt outside, so he gets like a belt buckle yellow, and he gets blue and purple ones for the other people. The sensei seems like he's starting to take a liking to him. Imogen Poots, she was in the Fright Night remake. She's in there, and she's not too bad. I mean, she's wooden, but I get why in this movie why she's that way, because you can't show weakness and all that jazz. The sensei, he's always talking about how everything should be masculine, and you know, your name is not that masculine, and oh, you have a little dog that's not too masculine. At times it's a bit on the nose, like with Jesse Eisenberg with the way he acts, where as he's going overboard, he goes to his diner and he tastes something. And he says something like, "I take what I want. I only care about myself." And like there's this boss who's actually pretty nice to him, and he punches him in the throat. And I would say that's one of the weaknesses is that it gets to a point I don't quite like Jesse Eisenberg's character as much because I'm thinking, okay, you're going over the top. He seems like he's got something going on with his brain, like some kind of mental malfunction because of certain aspects, and that would get into spoilers. So I would say that's one of with some of the way he reacts to certain situations and his behavior seems very weird from the get go. I think it would have been better if you had a guy that was a bit more natural. And I don't know if it's like you replace Jesse Eisenberg with another actor or if you write the character to. I did maybe that's the point is that he's acting so off, but I don't know. I'm thinking it actually would have been. How do I do this without spoiling it? I did overall like it because I did mind his offbeat quality to it. Uh, Interesting that a lot of it takes place in this dojo, which you don't find a lot of films nowadays that take place in the dojo, let alone a dark comedy like this. So it was an interesting change of venue from other movies. There's a couple of little offbeat things I didn't see coming that I thought were kind of funny or interesting. I would say if you check out the trailer or any of the story, if it interests you, it's definitely worth a look. To give more into spoilers, what I'm talking about is God, where do I go? Let me go more in the positives. When I said there was stuff that I didn't quite see coming, and it's like, wow, it's really pretty dark, more darker, like this video. That's why I did think this video fits. Like, there's this guy who seems pretty nice, and he's like a comrade to Jesse Eisenberg's character. He goes to his night crew when he's not supposed to, and you kind of know this is coming, and the sensei breaks his arm. And then much later, you find out that the guy hung himself. Like, yeah, it gets pretty dark. Or you find that the sensei is recording stuff to use as leverage to blackmail and get more money from these folks, saying, well, if you don't give me the money or if you don't do this, I'm going to take this to the cops and you're going to get screwed over. Or how one day Jesse Eisenberg gets home and in the spoilers and finds his little cute dog dead. And that's like one of the few times you get like a general reaction from him of like who could have done this, like in the hospital. Or you think it's going to be this big fight at the end between him and the sensei, and they get ready to fight, and then Isaac just pulls out a gun and shoots him in the head. I'm like, okay, that's actually the smart way of doing it. And he talks about, you say that I use this gun, that I am weak. But here's the thing. I am alive, and you are dead. So that means you are weak. And there was a movie I saw once. You didn't play by the rules, but there never were any rules. I guess that's why they wanted Jesse Eisenberg, because the way he talks in that certain off way, maybe will elicit laughs from people, and it did a couple times from me. But the negatives of that is sometimes the reaction seems so either mundane or at times you can easily make it where you don't like the character or you don't like the character as much as you should. Just for example, there's a point where like this boss who's just nice to him, and he punches the boss in the throat and he says, "Don't try to be nice to me. Bosses should not try to be nice to the workers or try to be friends with the workers." I'm like, that's not really true. I mean, I don't really believe in that. Actually, I would prefer that. So that just makes him an asshole in that behavior. And he never goes up and apologizes, even when he knows things are not going quite as they should and this is the wrong way to do it. There's never a moment that he goes up and apologizes to his boss or anything. So I thought that just makes him an asshole. There's a bit where a, there's a guy who clearly says he's a cop, and this is when the students are kind of sent on missions from the sensei. And the guy pulls a gun and clearly says he's a cop. I was sitting there going, why don't you just tell him you're a cop? This is who the guy is. This is where he lives at. He's got tapes of us. If you go there now, he's doing all this. I just he doesn't want to be in trouble. But the way he fights and attacks the guy, like he gets the guy killed. Yeah, he wounded Imogen Poots, granted, but you still caused the death of this cop. And there's never any moments afterward where Jesse Eisenberg is haunted. That's I think like the second guy he's killed now, because he killed this one guy, and he's a little bit freaked out. And then this cop was the second guy, and there's no moments of him being haunted, or he can't sleep at night, or anything in between. It's just a very mundane reaction. Same with, he does find the one guy hunt himself. He opens the door, looks, and then closes it, and is more into looking at finding these videotapes that have him on it. So, whether it's trying to interior his masculinity tone or whatever the hell the case may be, it just makes him more of an unlikable character with some of his mundane reactions to some of these things. I mean, the only unmundane reaction is kind of when his dog dies and when Imogen Poots gets shot in the leg. But there's other moments you think he should have more reaction, and he doesn't. And it just makes him not really a character I care a whole lot about. And to me, that's kind of one of the biggest missteps for the film, at least to me. But I will say the story was a bit interesting. It's one I haven't seen done a whole lot before. It's trying to be at least a little bit more of a clever take on toxic masculinity compared to a lot of movies in today's age. So I'd give it that. If you don't do it, at least be a bit more clever. If you like black humor, you could get some chuckles out of it here. This is definitely not a film that would be for everybody. There's a lot of questions that come up, like, do a lot of dojos have crematoriums in the back? Because, I said there's spoilers for those who get mad. When the sensei finds the guy that hung himself because he got his arm broken and he got kicked out of this place that it was all he wanted, the sensei takes the body and puts in the crematorium. How many dojos out there have a fucking crematorium in the back? And also, like, a cop was killed, and then you think there'd be a lot more worry of the police, but not really. That kind of gets forgotten about, as if it never happened, and there's no worry of the cops coming after him. Because you don't really have much of a police presence anywhere in this. Even at the end of the film, there's like 2 dead bodies, which I'll get to. And I guess, what, did they put those bodies in the crematorium as well? Aren't anyone going to ask where the fuck these people are and where they went and where do they go? And I guess not. They went to the Bermuda Triangle. But I was saying what made the film work was, I think the direction of the film was actually fairly good, where it has some of the training scenes and the way like it has this push in, that scene push in, like this consistent version of that. The acting, like I thought Alessandro Nivola actually did a pretty good job as the sensei. Like you could kind of see why people would be charmed with this guy and want to follow what he does until you find out who he truly is. There's some nice bits of dry humor. One of the funnier bits is at the end where after he shoots the sensei, he makes it seem as if he killed him with his hands and that he's the new sensei. And he's like, wait a minute, there's one more thing I need to figure out. Put your arms out, and he finds the guy who killed his dog. And so previously in the film, he had been given this German Shepherd that he had to tame and speaks only German. So he speaks German and says, the man on the left. And the dog goes, and he's like, stop, your other left. And so the dog goes the other way and kills the guy that killed Jesse Eisenberg's dog. Little dog. Like, that was a funny bit. It's darkly humorous, but because of how dry it was done, what I mean by dry humor means, is that big over the top, big old noises and slapstick? It's very straightforward in tone of voice, but it still ends up being pretty funny. Like I said, at the very least, it was an interesting film to watch. Felt a bit different than the usual. Like I said, Jesse Eisenberg, whether the way his character was written or the actor himself, there are times, like I said, I just didn't warm up to him and didn't really like him. Like, okay, to give a comparison, observe and report. You could easily say that's also a darkly humorous film, but I found that film a lot funnier. And even though I should not like Seth Rogen's character for maybe similar reasons as this movie, I still ended up liking him and rooting for him in a weird way. And I still think that's one of Seth Rogen's best movies. I definitely think that's his most underrated film, is probably Observe and Report. I do think that's his most underrated movie. I still find that a pretty entertaining movie. It's like, no, I should not like this guy, but because of the way Seth Rogen played, I still was entertained watching him. Here, because of Jesse Eisenberg's delivery, then either you like it or you don't, and I just see people being tiresome of it. Just I just see the opposite. People liked it more than I did. At the end of the day, I liked some of the direction the movie took, some of the little surprises here and there. Like I said, I thought the cinematography, the direction was fairly on point. I just wish they would have tweaked on certain things, like, why does this dojo have a treatment? Maybe they did explain it in the movie, and I missed it. If so, that's my fault. Or about, well, wait a minute, this cop, you didn't really need the cop one, because there's always already this point where the reason he killed the first guy was because Sensei lied to him and said, oh, he's the guy that bugged you. He's the guy that beat you up. And then the guy falls and accidentally hits his head. I think that's all you needed. And then, okay, now you don't do what I want. Which really, what does this entail? Like going out and doing this stuff, I just to show them more masculinity? Like, if it's one thing, we don't do this, now I got this evidence on you, now you don't do what I say. Well, you already done that with Jesse Eisenberg, so why are you going out again for these other people? Are you trying to get new people in trouble? But no, you're just having Jesse Eisenberg. I don't know, just some kind of machismo thing that I want you to. I don't know. I really don't. I'm trying to explain. I don't even fucking know myself. I know they try to explain the movie, but like, Like, yeah, it's trying to make fun of the if you're overly machismo, overly bravado, what that could entail in the negative stance. The idea where it's going with, like I said, it's more clever than other movies have done. So I didn't think it was a bad movie. It was an interesting film. I would never watch it again, but like I said, I do wish some tweaks were done on the main character to make him a bit more likable. Again, whether it be a different actor that could entail that or some tweaks on the script. That's just me, though. But with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later.